It's super important that when you're there, you feel confident where you're going. Because if you're scared and people can take advantage of you. But however, like Moscow, because it's an international city, a lot of people speak English. So if you ever get scared, you can use English. They might not understand you, but they'll be like, "Oh, yes, yes, I understand." They'll get you. But definitely use the metro. It's world renowned, the Moscow Metro. From getting to point A to point B, it'll get you there quick, and it's pretty cheap too. Um, just like to be safe, um, always keep your valuables in your pocket rather than in a backpack or a purse. We were told to keep our wallets in our front pocket. And, we had our passports, all Americans, or for that matter, like all international citizens. They all need to keep their documents on them at all times. So what we did is we had like a pouch that we had flipped inside of our belt and inside our pants so you couldn't see it. And that's where we kept the most important stuff. Um, and as far as like money goes, Russians, they really like change when you use exact change. You'll have a grandma give you a dirty look if you give her, 100 ruble bill and your bill's only maybe 19. So she'll just, give you so just kind of avoid that if you can. I don't know. It's a safe city more than you think. Um, just as long as you're confident where you're going and you know, don't hesitate to ask for directions. But at the same time, like know what general area you're going.
In our mission, we walked a lot. We didn't have bikes or we didn't drive. And so, yeah, everything was either walking or you would take a bus. Or if you were in St. Petersburg, then you took the metro or the tramway or the trolley bus. Just depends on where you are in the mission. And so, because you take public transport a lot, you will have a bus card. And so every month you just go, like the mission will give you, I don't know, like I think it's $200. I can't really convert it, but they give that to you. And so that you just go to the ticket office in the metro station or at the bus station and you give them the money. They put that money onto your card. And so you can use that card as many times as you want for that month. And so, yeah, we used a lot of buses. You just take a bus to every apartment or to the church. Yeah, I think we expected to. It would take about an hour to get anywhere. That's what we expected. So usually, if you had a meeting at 1, you would have to leave by noon in order to get to the meeting. Sometimes, if you're in the city, because things are a lot closer together, and it just depends on where the member, the investigator lives, it could take you 15 minutes. But most of the time, just plan on taking an hour to get anywhere. Shopping there, for stores, they don't have big stores like Walmart. I remember when I came back from my mission and I went into a Walmart, I almost hyperventilated because it was so big. There they have a lot smaller, more compact stores, and they're more local. So they have a lot of fresh produce. And they'll have like bread and pastries and things like that. You actually can go to something called a rynik, and that's literally translated a market, and that's where they have like the locally grown fruits and vegetables, and those are more popular in the summer because it's a lot warmer and you can grow things a lot easier. And so those open up in the summers, but they also have so that's a market rynik where food is, but they also have another rynik, and that is where clothes are. And those clothes are more like knockoffs, just people like hand making Gucci bags and stuff like that. So that's where you can get your cheap fake clothes. I didn't really go shopping in those ryniks. except for like my winter jacket and my boots and just like little things. But if I ever needed to get like a good skirt, I would go to the mall. They have malls there. Yeah, I think every city that I served in had a mall except for one, but that city was so close to St. Petersburg that it wasn't that big of a deal. Sometimes we didn't have enough time to go home because everything was so far away. We wouldn't have time to go home, but they do have like little shops on the streets. Me and my companions, we would get something called Lepioshka, and that's just like, it's like flatbread, so good. And we would just get Lepioshka and then go to a Renick and get some apples or something, and that was our dinner. And we would just walk on the street and just be eating that. Or there's something called Wypechki, and it's like a pastry but with cabbage inside or potatoes. So a lot of times, this is just me and my companions, we would just quickly run by like a Lepioshka and then just keep walking, keep going to meetings and just snack on that for the day. Yeah. But if you're in the smaller cities, it's a little harder to find food on the streets. And in terms of transport, you do walk a lot. We didn't take as many buses because it's a lot smaller. So we walked a lot more. And in the smaller cities, I felt like it was a lot slower. Transportation was slower, people talked slower, people walked slower. Everything was more laid back. And then you go into St. Petersburg and everything's fast. Like, I remember I served in a small city and then I transferred into St. Petersburg, and it was a big shock because we ran after everything. We ran to meetings, we ran to buses, we ran to the metro or to the subway, and it was crazy. In terms of safety, I think the senior missionaries have to be a little more careful about not being robbed or mugged, because they mainly got their purses stolen or money stolen from them. I think it's just because they look more touristy because they're older and slower. But I think also maybe just because we were the sisters, guys tend to respect girls a lot more there, and so they didn't steal a lot from us. But if you're ever in the subway, usually I would just slip my bag in front of me so like I could see it and nobody could grab it. And also I had a bag that could zip and could buckle, and so instead of them just being able to easily like stick their hand in your bag, they would have to unbuckle and unzip my bag. So if you're going to you have to get a bag for your mission, just make sure that it is able to zip closed. So it's a lot harder for people to grab things out of your bag. Yeah, and just be careful with money too. When you travel, you will have something called a pouch, and pouches are so uncomfortable, but they're useful, because in your pouch, that is where you'll have your passport and your papers to show that you are legally able to proselyte in that city. And you'll also have extra money in there. If there's an emergency and you have to travel to St. Petersburg, you can pull that money out and travel. Yeah. You will always have your passport with you at all times. It has to be on your body at all times whenever you're out in public, because sometimes the police will randomly stop you and say, "Give me your documents," or "Show them to me." And they have certain rules for you. If the police do stop you and ask to see your documents, then there are certain things that you need to do. You have to call up the man that's in charge of the mission office, and then he'll talk to the police and get everything figured out. But usually the police never stopped me. But I think they stop a lot of the elders more, just because they're in suits and it looks a little more suspicious. But for us sisters, I didn't have to worry about the police stopping us or people asking for our documents.
As far as clothing, you wear what the Russians wear. I don't care if you're not cold. People will yell at you if you're not wearing a hat and scarf, if everyone else is wearing a hat and scarf. And they wear their winter clothes long into spring. It's not kind of like Utah where it's 40 degrees and people are running around in shorts and flip-flops. Like, they wear their coats until like summer. You know, you definitely need to wear what the Russians will wear and just kind of look around and see what people are wearing. And you do need to, at least in some aspect, adapt to that, because people will comment and ask you if you're crazy because you're not wearing tights. Tights are a really big thing for sister missionaries. And if you decide to kind of rebel and be like, I'm not going to wear tights and boots, it's not cold enough for that, the Relief Society will get together and think that you don't have tights and boots, and will pull all their resources together to try and buy you some tights or boots. And usually they're not the kind that you would normally pick out for yourself either. So do yourself a favor and just humble yourself and wear what the people are wearing, because it really kind of creates problems. Like, I've tried to talk to people and they're so worried that I'm not wearing tights that they won't listen to what I have to say about the gospel or anything. There's a couple cultural things, especially for sisters. You can't sit on cold things. And they will say it's because you won't be able to have children if you sit on cold things. Your feet should always be covered. You'll get sick if you go around barefoot, or they'll always give you sandals to wear when you enter their house. You always take off your shoes whenever you enter any house and put on the little tapachkis, what they call them. They're usually kind of pretty ugly foam sandals that are usually kind of gross and worn out. So if you kind of have like feet issues, just be sure to wear socks. Because they're very much they share what they have. I had a companion that, for the life of her, she hated wearing hats, and so she wouldn't wear a hat clear into November, and everyone's like, you need to put a hat on. I don't care if you're not cold, like, it's bad for you, you'll get sick. Like, Russians value health above everything else. A lot of times we'd ask people, like, what is most important to you in life? And they would say health. And their reasoning is that if you don't have health, you're not good to anyone else around you. Like, you can't help out in any way, and you're just a burden to others. You can't work, you can't help your family. Like, if you're not healthy, you can't do anything. And so, which is kind of ironic, because not a lot of them work out or have very balanced diets, or, like, in America's sense of health is very different from Russia's sense of health. You kind of do just want to fit in. I mean, you can wear brightly colored things. Russians are very, very fashionable. And that's fine. But as far as like dressing for the weather, you definitely need to wear what the Russians wear. Wear a jacket when it's raining outside. And even in like my first city that I served in, it was super humid. And there was typhoon season, so you'd get a lot of rainstorms, and then it'd come through really fast, and then it'd be really sunny, but it'd still just be so humid, like you could see the moisture in the air just like swirling around. And although it was really hot in summer, because it was raining, people would still be wearing jackets. And if I wasn't wearing a jacket, people would ask me, why aren't you wearing a jacket? I'd be like, well, it's not cold. And like, you're crazy, you need to wear a jacket. You've got to pick your battles. There are some cultural things that you'll really want to push against, but some of them you just have to submit to, like the clothes. But also, tea. They don't care how hot it is outside. They will serve you scalding hot tea, boiling hot. And for Russians, I don't know if they just have like a superpower, they can just like drink boiling things, but you will get a lot of tea, a lot of cookies. It's kind of like a tradition when somebody comes to the house, they always have to bring something to them. Maybe even if it's just like a little tiny piece of candy or something, they always give them something. And although I never really did this a lot on my mission, I kind of wish I would have more. But also bringing things for them when you come over, even if it's just like a little piece of candy, or if you need an excuse to like stop by an investigator's house or something for no apparent reason. They're so sentimental if you just say, I just thought of you and I wanted to bring you this chocolate, or I just wanted to bring you this thing. It means a lot to them. They're a very gift-giving community. Also, there's a weird thing about saying that you like things. In America, sometimes we say like, oh, I like your bag, or like your shirt's really cute. But that's really weird to them. And if you say like, oh, I like that, they think that you want it. So like sometimes, especially at the beginning of your mission, you kind of keep with that. You don't really know what to say, so you just say like, oh, I like that thing on your wall, or like, that's really pretty. And they'll be like, oh, do you want it? And they will like take a rug off their wall and give it to you, or like they will try and give you anything that you compliment on. I mean, obviously it's not the same all the time, but just kind of like being aware that like if you compliment something, or if you say that you like something, they'll want to give it to you. Like a member's scarf or something, like, oh, your scarf is so pretty, that looks beautiful. And she'll be like, you know what, have it. And then just like put it on you. And you're like, no, I don't want it. She's like, no, it's my gift. It's my gift. You have to take it. And so like, you do have to be careful with saying that you like things, because Russians will try to give you whatever. It doesn't matter really how inconvenient it is, and like, obviously not in every situation, but a lot of times if it's like something small or like not of significant value, they will try to give it to you. Yeah.